Have you ever felt like the world kept spinning, but somehow it left you behind? Like you're standing in a room full of people, yet no one truly sees you? That quiet ache inside, the one you don't talk about, it doesn't shout, it whispers. It says you don't belong. That maybe something about you is too different, too strange, too invisible. You scroll past smiling faces, read messages you'll never receive, and wonder what it's like to be part of something, to be chosen, to be wanted. But day after day, you wake up with a silence that wraps around your life like a blanket you didn't ask for. And in that silence, doubt begins to speak louder than hope. You try to tell yourself it's fine, that you're strong, that you don't need anyone. But the truth is, no one wants to be completely alone. We're built to connect, to be seen, to be known. And when that connection disappears, or worse, was never there to begin with, it does something to the heart. It makes you question your worth. It makes you shrink. You start walking through life not just unnoticed, but numb. Days blur together. Our conversations are rare. Your voice feels distant, like it doesn't matter. And slowly, you start to forget who you are. But here's the truth you need to remember. This isn't where your story ends. This emptiness, this quiet, it's not here to break you. It's here to wake something powerful inside you. Because when the world turns down its volume, your own voice has the chance to rise. This moment, right here, is not your defeat. It's your beginning. The place where something deep within you stirs. A spark that says, there's more to me than this. A whisper that becomes a roar. A truth that cannot be silenced. You are not unworthy. You are not forgotten. You are not the only one. There are millions like you, strong, feeling, thinking souls, trapped in their own quiet corners. And what if your journey isn't just about surviving this loneliness, but using it? What if your silence is the soil where strength begins to grow? What if, by the end of this, you're not just someone who lived through isolation, you're someone who used it to build a version of yourself no one can ignore? Stay with this, because every second you keep watching, you're taking a step back toward yourself, toward healing, toward power. This story you're about to walk through isn't just for a woman with no friends. It's for the woman rediscovering her voice. It's for you. Not the one the world couldn't see, but the one who is finally ready to see herself. So don't turn away now, because the woman you're becoming on the other side of this silence, she's worth everything. And her time is just beginning. That voice inside that told you you're not enough, it was never yours to begin with. It came from years of quiet rejection, from people who looked past you, from moments where your presence didn't feel like it mattered. And over time, you started to believe it. You started to think maybe they were right. Maybe something about you was just too hard to love, but they were wrong, every single one of them. You are not too much, you are not too little, you are not a mistake. What you are is someone the world failed to understand, not someone who failed to be understood. Loneliness can make the mind play tricks. It makes you question your memory, your actions, your very existence. You begin to replay every moment, every interaction, trying to find the thing you did wrong. You search for reasons why they stopped calling, why no one stayed. And slowly, you stop reaching out. Not because you don't want connection, but because you've been conditioned to expect disappointment. That kind of hurt teaches you to build walls. Not because you're cold, but because you were once wide open and no one noticed. But hear this, your pain doesn't define your value. Their absence doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means they weren't equipped to meet someone as deep, as real, as honest as you. You don't need to change to fit their expectations. You don't need to bend until you break just to be liked. You don't have to perform for love. You deserve the kind of connection that meets you where you are, fully, authentically, without the need to edit yourself. But to receive that, you must first stop believing the lie that you're not good enough. That lie ends now. You've carried it long enough, and it's only weighed you down. It's time to put it down, to stand without apology, and to finally reclaim what's always been yours, your worth. The most powerful shift happens not when others choose you, but when you choose yourself. When you stop waiting for someone to invite you in and realize you've had the key the entire time. This is where everything changes. When you stop asking, what's wrong with me, and start asking, what am I capable of now that I'm free? Because freedom starts where self-doubt ends, and that freedom is already inside you, waiting to rise. You don't need the world's permission to be powerful. You just need to decide that you're done hiding. You may feel alone now, but you are standing at the edge of something extraordinary, a shift, a breakthrough, a rebirth. And if you're brave enough to keep going, to keep listening, to keep rising, you'll see. This moment won't be the chapter you skip over. This will be the chapter you'll remember as the one that changed everything. Because once you reclaim your worth, the world can never take it from you again. Keep going. Your future self is already proud. The world may have turned its back, but your back is stronger now because of it. You've walked through days where the silence was so loud it almost broke you. You've sat with your own thoughts when there was no one else to talk to, and still you're here, breathing, standing, searching for something greater than the emptiness you've known. That alone makes you unstoppable. Because it's not the ones who've had constant support who rise the highest. It's the ones who had to build from nothing, the ones who kept showing up when no one else did, the ones who learned to become their own source of strength. You have a power inside you that most people will never understand. Because while they were distracted by the noise of attention and approval, you were learning to stand in your own truth. You were becoming grounded, rooted, clear. And in that clarity, a new fire is beginning to burn. Not the fire of anger, but of purpose. Of a deep knowing that your life means more than being accepted. It means being real, being whole, being free. That fire doesn't need applause to grow. It doesn't need permission to exist. It only needs your willingness to let it rise. When you stop needing the world to validate your existence, everything changes. Your energy shifts, your decisions sharpen. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you and realize you were never meant to be saved. You were meant to rise. You begin waking up with intention. You move with discipline. You show up for yourself even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And every time you do, your mind starts to trust you again. You stop questioning your worth and start acting like someone who knows exactly what she brings to the table. This is where identity is built, not in the eyes of others, but in the commitment you make to yourself. The promise that no matter who leaves, you won't leave you. That no matter who ignores your light, you'll keep it lit anyway. That promise is everything, because from that place you start building habits, structure, strength. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. And that creation, day by day, brick by brick, becomes your new foundation, one that doesn't shake when people disappear, one that doesn't crumble when things get quiet again, because now the quiet isn't empty, it's sacred. You're no longer the woman waiting to be included. You are the woman building her own space. You are the foundation, the fire, the focus. And once you realize how powerful it is to be self-led, no one can manipulate you again. No one can make you beg for scraps of attention. You are no longer starving for connection. You're feasting on your own growth. Keep feeding that fire. Keep walking with your head high. Because now, you're not just surviving the silence, you're thriving in it. And the woman you're becoming will never settle again. There comes a moment when the pain no longer controls you, it sharpens you. It doesn't break you, it builds you. Every unanswered call, every ignored message, every gathering you were never invited to, it all becomes fuel, not for revenge, but for rebirth. The loneliness that once drained you is now forging something unshakable inside. You're not empty, you're becoming full of something the world can't take away. A self-respect that no silence can dim. A resilience that doesn't rely on applause to breathe. And the truth is, most people never reach this place. They stay stuck in patterns of needing, craving, performing. But not you. Not anymore. You've crossed a line most never dare to reach. The line between being wanted and being whole. You no longer shrink yourself to fit rooms that don't deserve you. You no longer explain your soul to people who only hear noise when you speak truth. Because you've learned that not everyone will understand you, and that's not a flaw. It's a sign that your path is rare, that your presence is powerful, that your essence isn't meant for everyone, it's meant for the few who truly see. Until then, you don't chase. You attract by rising, you elevate by aligning. You heal by returning to yourself over and over again, no matter how many times the world tries to pull you away. You are becoming your own safe place. And when you become your own safety, the fear starts to fade. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood. Because now your self-worth is not up for debate. You don't perform to be seen. You don't hustle for love. You don't beg for belonging. You show up as you are, fully, deeply, unapologetically. And those who can meet you there will rise to meet you, not out of obligation, but out of recognition. Because true connection isn't forced. It's found in alignment, in depth, in truth. This path you're on isn't easy, but it's honest. It's not built on surface smiles or shallow conversations. It's built on grit, on grace, on the decision to stop settling. And each time you hold that boundary, each time you choose solitude over disrespect, you are rewiring your mind. You are teaching yourself that peace matters more than popularity, that wholeness matters more than validation, that you'd rather be alone in truth than surrounded by people who don't see you. That kind of woman is dangerous, not because she harms, but because she can't be controlled. She doesn't fold when it gets quiet. She doesn't disappear when she's doubted. She rises, she reclaims, she rebuilds. And now that you've tasted that kind of power, you can't go back. You won't go back. Because this isn't just survival anymore. This is your awakening. This is your becoming. And the woman you are now, she's not waiting for a connection. She's becoming the connection. The woman who once questioned her place in the world is now creating her own. And she no longer waits to be chosen. She chooses herself again and again until it becomes second nature, until it becomes truth. That shift rewires everything. You begin to carry yourself differently. You walk into rooms without shrinking. You speak without apology, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you finally know your value doesn't depend on who acknowledges it. You are no longer starving for belonging. You are rooted in something deeper, self-trust. That trust didn't come easily. It came from the nights you cried in silence, from the moments you wondered if it would always feel this hard. But through every ache, you stayed. You didn't abandon yourself. And that, more than anything, is what makes you unshakable. When you learn to hold yourself through your lowest moments, you become a force nothing can control. Because now, no one gets to decide your worth, not their approval, not their attention, not their invitation. You've given that power back to where it always belonged, in your own hands. And when a woman takes her power back, the world feels it. The same world that once overlooked you begins to shift, not because it changed, but because you did. You stop performing, you stop chasing, you stop betraying your own voice just to be accepted. And now, you don't move for attention, you move for alignment, for peace, for purpose. That's why the silence doesn't scare you anymore. Because now it's not a punishment, it's a choice. A space you protect, a place where you build, where you heal, where you rise without the noise. Your presence no longer begs to be noticed. It commands it, quietly, powerfully, authentically. Because real power doesn't shout, it radiates. And that's who you are now. A woman who radiates from the inside out, who no longer allows the opinions of others to shape her reflection, who no longer looks outward to feel full. You filled the gaps within yourself, with discipline, with self-respect, with inner peace. And now everything else is a bonus, not a lifeline. This transformation isn't just for you. It's for every woman watching, every woman who feels unseen, every soul that's been made to believe they are not enough. You are proof that isolation is not the end. It's the beginning of awakening, of shedding layers, of stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't settle, doesn't shrink, doesn't break for anyone's comfort. That version is alive now, breathing through your choices, rising through your courage. You are no longer the woman who waits for love. You are the woman who is love, for herself, for her future, for her purpose. And nothing is more powerful than a woman who chooses herself, not once, but every single day. That's how you win. That's how you lead. That's how you become everything they never saw in you. Because now, you finally see it in yourself. There is a kind of strength that only silence teaches. The kind that comes not from being surrounded, but from standing alone and still refusing to fall. You've been through the ache of being overlooked, the sting of not being chosen, the numbness that comes after too many goodbyes. And yet, despite it all, you're still here. You didn't give up on yourself. You didn't disappear. You kept breathing through the pain. And that quiet endurance has made you fierce in a way no applause ever could. You don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need the world to approve of your path. Because you finally understand that peace is more important than popularity, that your purpose is too important to wait for permission. And when you wake up each day grounded in your own truth, you stop needing to be rescued. You become your own anchor, your own shelter, your own home. That's the kind of power that cannot be taken from you because it wasn't given by anyone else. You built it from the inside out. Through every moment of doubt, every hour of solitude, every decision to keep going when it would have been easier to give up. Now you walk differently, not to impress, but because your soul is no longer carrying the weight of needing to be seen. You've seen yourself. You've held yourself. You've healed the parts of you that once cried for connection by becoming the connection. And that transformation? It echoes. It creates ripple effects far beyond what you can see. Because a woman who has rebuilt herself from silence becomes a mirror for others who are still searching. She shows them it's possible. That loneliness isn't a life sentence. It's a doorway to personal power. You no longer fill the room with noise just to feel heard. You carry presence now. That quiet, undeniable confidence that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't compromise. You know who you are. And because of that, you attract differently. You choose differently, you expect differently, not from a place of ego, but from deep self-respect. You've outgrown the versions of you that tolerated less, that dimmed your light, that bent to fit into spaces that didn't feel right. That woman served a purpose, but she doesn't define you anymore. You've evolved, you've elevated, and now you lead with a higher standard, not for others, but for yourself. This journey is not about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you were before the world made you forget, before the silence made you question, before the rejections made you shrink, and now that you've remembered, now that you've risen, nothing can pull you back into who you used to be. Not fear, not loneliness, not doubt. You've moved past the place where you needed others to complete you, because you finally understand you were never incomplete to begin with. You were only waiting to realize it, and now you do. You've shed layers that were never truly yours, the mask of pretending to fit in, the weight of trying to be enough for people who never deserved you, the ache of trying to belong in places that drained your spirit. It's all gone now. You are no longer living in fragments of who you were told to be. You are living in the fullness of who you are, and there is no shame in walking alone when the walk is toward your truth. Because what waits for you at the end of that path is not more people, it's more power. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't shake, doesn't seek, it simply is. You've stopped asking, what's wrong with me? And started declaring, there's nothing wrong with me. That shift isn't small, it's everything. Because the moment you stop blaming yourself for other people's inability to see you, you take back every piece of yourself you once gave away. Every part you abandoned to earn affection, every voice you silenced to keep the peace, every dream you put on hold because you thought you needed someone else to believe in it first. You take it all back. And in that reclamation, you finally understand what freedom feels like. It's not found in being accepted by the crowd. It's found in walking your path, even when it's quiet, even when it's hard, even when no one claps. You rise because it's who you are now. You grow because you've tasted your own strength. And now, you crave nothing less than full alignment. That's why you don't entertain distractions. That's why you don't go backwards. That's why you don't explain your glow to those who only understand shadows. You've paid in silence and struggle and solitude, and now the return is showing. Not always on the outside, but deeply, undeniably within. The calm you carry now is earned. It's not the absence of pain, it's the presence of peace. It's what happens when you stop fighting yourself and start fighting for yourself. You protect your energy, you honor your growth. You no longer betray your boundaries just to feel loved. Because now you understand anything that costs you your peace isn't love. It's a lesson. One you've already learned. One you no longer need to repeat. And now that you've stepped into this level of self-awareness, you can't go back to pretending. You can't unsee the truth of who you are. A woman who doesn't just survive loneliness, she transforms in it. A woman who doesn't crumble in silence, she strengthens. A woman who doesn't fear her own company, she embraces it. And when you become that woman, you realize that everything you thought you needed was already inside of you, waiting to be awakened. This is your homecoming, not to a place, but to your power, your voice, your worth. You're not just walking forward, you're walking fully aligned, fully whole, fully unstoppable, and nothing, no silence, no absence, no rejection can take that away. There is nothing more dangerous to a broken world than a woman who has healed herself. A woman who no longer waits for validation. A woman who no longer needs a seat at a table that was never built for her truth. She builds her own, and she doesn't fill it with noise or with people who only show up when it benefits them. She fills it with purpose, with clarity, with alignment so deep it silences the lies she once believed about who she was and what she deserved. That kind of woman cannot be shaken, not by absence, not by criticism, not by the loneliness that once left her gasping for breath. Because now she understands that silence is not empty, it's sacred. You are no longer a question mark in your own life. You are an exclamation point, a declaration of power, of resilience, of rebirth. You stopped asking for space and started creating it. You stopped wondering if you were enough and started realizing that you were more than anyone ever told you. And now, you are no longer moved by the shallow waves of attention or approval. You are grounded in something deeper, an identity rooted in truth, not trends. A confidence that doesn't waver when people leave, when plans fall through, when voices go quiet. You've found something no one else can give or take, your own presence. When you realize that your own company is enough, everything shifts. You stop running. You stop proving. You stop explaining your depth to people who are never meant to hold it. And in that stillness, in that bold choice to stay present with yourself, a different kind of power grows. Not loud, not flashy, just true, steady, untouchable. And the world will try to test it. People will still leave, some will still misunderstand, but now you meet all of that with grace, not desperation. With boundaries, not walls, with strength, not bitterness. Because you've become the kind of woman who doesn't need the world to get it. She just needs to live it. You have rewritten the story that used to keep you small. You no longer measure your worth by how many people show up, how many texts go unanswered, how many events you weren't invited to. You measure it by how you show up for yourself. Every morning you rise with discipline. Every time you speak with honesty. Every moment you choose peace over pleasing. That's your new reflection. And you see it clearly now, not in the mirror, but in how you walk, how you hold yourself, how you refuse to settle. There's no turning back, because you've outgrown the survival version of you. The one that begged for connection, the one that feared solitude. That woman fought hard to get you here, but she didn't bring you this far to keep hiding. She brought you here so you could rise. And now that you have, no one, not even the past version of you, gets to hold you back. You're not alone anymore. You're complete. You're ready. You're becoming everything they said you couldn't be. You've stepped into a version of yourself that no longer fears being misunderstood. You no longer explain your silence. You no longer apologize for your boundaries. You no longer shrink so others can feel comfortable. That version of you, rooted in self-awareness, grounded in self-worth, is the beginning of everything. Because when you stop needing others to validate your existence, you begin to create a life that actually feels like your own. Every choice becomes intentional. Every step becomes sacred. And every breath becomes a reminder that you survived what was meant to break you. You don't live to be chosen anymore. You live to honor the woman you've become. The one who fought in the dark when no one was watching. The one who picked herself up without a cheering crowd. The one who learned to love her own company, not out of bitterness, but out of deep self-respect. That woman is not cold. She is not distant. She is not hard to love. She is simply no longer willing to betray herself for temporary comfort. She knows the cost of shrinking. She knows the price of pretending. And she refuses to pay it anymore. What once felt like loneliness now feels like clarity. You see through the noise. You recognize what no longer aligns. You've learned that not every connection is meant to be kept. Some were there to teach you how to be alone without falling apart. And now you no longer confuse attachment with love. You don't chase what leaves. You don't beg for time. You don't explain your worth to those who can't see it. You move with calm, with conviction, with the quiet certainty of someone who finally knows who she is. You're not interested in superficial bonds. You're building something deeper now, a life that reflects your values, a path that honors your growth. You've stopped measuring your success by how many people stand beside you, and started measuring it by how deeply you stand in your own truth. That shift is everything. Because now, even when you're alone, you're not empty, you're full. Full of wisdom, full of strength, full of power no one can see, but everyone can feel. You didn't need more friends. You needed more alignment, more purpose, more authenticity. And now that you've found it, you don't settle for less. You're done explaining your solitude. It's not a weakness. It's a choice, a sanctuary, a revolution. Because the woman who rises in silence becomes a lighthouse for others still lost in the noise. You've become that light, not because you were saved, but because you saved yourself. This is what happens when you stop waiting, when you stop proving, when you stop needing anyone to tell you that you matter. You already know. You've already claimed it. And now, nothing can shake it. You are no longer a woman with no friends. You are a woman with unshakable standards, with self-built peace, with a life so aligned it doesn't need to be loud to be powerful.